So I realized one of the uh, operating systems we hadn't looked at or versions of is Solaris 10, which I'm considering for my new storage server at home. So I thought, why don't we take a look at it? I'm going to be doing some head-to-head comparisons, Solaris 10 versus FreeBSD 11 for iSCSI um, in a virtualized environment. In the physical one, it's also going to be doing fiber channel, but for virtualized, we'll stick to NFS and iSCSI only. But let's install it, play around. I'll comment on it as we go, as is usual form for these videos. We're going to be using the interactive text console session um, so that I can switch into scale mode here and hopefully get it to show up nicely on the video. So aspect ratio may seem a little off, but I think that'll look better than trying to look at a small window. So Solaris 10 was kind of Sun's dual operating system. It had ZFS, probably the best file system out there, uh, or at least the most modern, good one. Depending on what you're doing, XFS can be good too. Um, and it had dtrace, and these were really excellent bits of kit. There's a whole lot of other features. Um, what I use it for is just a generic Unix environment, and it is real Unix. So unlike Linux and BSDs, not real Unix. Solaris, real Unix. Um, the installer hasn't changed a lot. I mean, the last one I really remember, goodness, I mean, back to Solaris 2.6, you had this sort of menu driven with F2 to continue. Um, so let's hit F2 to continue. And they want to confirm my language. So I guess it's good. Ask if we're networked. DHCP, no. Call it the Solaris 10 storage VM. And we'll put it on 120. Net mask of 255s and no IPv6. So we could do IPv6, but won't. So pretty easy setup so far, right? But we're just configuring networking, which is the first step, which will become obvious here in a couple minutes, and perhaps less. Not the speediest in the world in terms of getting things installed. We're going to specify a route. And I should comment we're using VirtualBox here to do the virtualization. This is set up 2 virtual processors, 4 gigs of memory, and a 72 gig drive. Summary of my networking information. And we don't want Cerberus. We do want DNS. And home.lan. As for the v4 NFS domains, and we'll set the time zone. Texas is here in Central Time. And what's nice about this versus Solaris 11, it does not complain about weak root passwords, which I like. I think it is handy to remind people what's a solid password. Um, but again, I am behind a couple layers of firewall protection here. It's an internal network. Let me set my root password to what I want it to be. More useful security-wise thing is it asks if I want remote services enabled. These are going to be some of the older remote services, but also some of the newer ones. And this is an important security question. If you have, say, a workstation, you could check no here. So that is a nice security feature that they at least ask. And we don't need a proxy server. So you can see, not necessarily the speediest here, but it moves along well enough. So now this is where things really get interesting. I could install this directly onto an iSCSI target. Fantastic. Um, for most use, I prefer NFS to iSCSI, but for doing this sort of diskless, you know, system, fantastic. Um, we're not going to be doing iSCSI right now, but we could. And in fact, the storage server that this is a kind of a test VM for, iSCSI will be one of the things it's used for. Most of its use is going to be fiber channel to run the Sunblade and the SGIO2, and hopefully also the RX1620 fiber channel to export file systems there, so I can get rid of really noisy SCSI, old SCSI disks. So 15,000 RPM SCSI disk from the mid 2000s. It's a pretty noisy beast, and they do consume some power. We'll do a manual reboot, and we're going to be installing from CD image. And we're going to put in a couple of locales here. Standard, but we're going to stick with C as our default. And we're going to put the root on UFS. I didn't mention ZFS, and we could do root on ZFS. Well, actually, let's do root on ZFS. I was going to do UFS just for nostalgia purposes, but we'll do root on ZFS. And we're going to do everything. And so it's going to call it root pool. So, yeah. So all these options lets you specify some stuff. Well, actually, no, everything looks fine there. I was thinking about increasing the swap size, but I don't think we'll need to. So start the installation here. This will take a few minutes, so I'm going to pause here, and we will pick back up once the installation here is complete. And we are back. So let me switch out of scale mode here. And we're going to pull out the disk at the appropriate time. And see what comes up when it first boots. So we get the Grub bootloader. I don't know how I feel about that. Sun, Oracle, write your own bootloader. No, I give them too much hard time. Grub is a great bootloader. Linux World, I kind of prefer Lilo, and now with UFS, that changes the game completely. Oh, the other great feature I forgot about, which I have mixed feelings about. So I mentioned dtrace and ZFS for Solaris, SMF, which is what systemd could have and should have been. SMF is fantastic if you want service management. What's a service management framework, right? So it's what it says on the tin, but it's a lot nicer in my opinion than systemd. I still prefer, for the stuff I do, which isn't really running a whole lot of production servers and kind of the mission critical stuff. I still prefer System 5 startup and BSD startup scripts. They're simple, they don't really break, not much to them. So that would kind of be my preference. But there's nothing wrong with SMF or systemd. They're kind of heavyweight for many tasks, right? But if you are running some big, say you have a big Sunfire 15,000 or something, or whatever the modern equivalent is, some big machine, you want the self-healing, you want the management functionality there. For a workstation, probably not necessary. And I guess they can't really give you a choice. They gotta do one or the other. And we get our login manager. So let's log in here as root. And we're going to do common desktop environment because, well, CDE is better than the Java desktop, even though they deprecated CDE. Shame on Oracle. So first thing is let's install the guest editions so that we can get a better display here. So CDE, leave a comment below if you want to see a video all about CDE. Have a kind of love-hate relationship with it, but don't want to spend too much time on it right now. Volume Management Daemon picked up our CD here, so that's now mounted. Let's pull up a terminal to get this installed. So because it's real Unix, Bash is not the default shell for everything, which is nice. So we've got System 5 packages. So we can, again, leave a comment if you want to see more about System 5 packages, but look at this. It's text here, right? So it has some descriptions, but it also has the binaries. So we're going to use the package add utility to install it and install all the features here. So we're going to have to log back out and log in. And note the prefix there, sun w. So I like System 5 packages. If you have to have a package and it's not a Slackware package, which is tarball, System 5 packages work really nicely. Dependency checking, not necessary. RPMs, overcomplicated. So we've got that installed. So we will log out and log back in, and this will let us get a bigger display. Or resize, whatever they call it. Resizable display. So again, if you're not impressed with the speediness of it, this is all just a little bit of graphical lag because I am doing bitmapped X over the network, and it's also being encrypted by SSH. So that is what that is about. Let me bring up a terminal here. So this is the DT term, which is a NISL term. So some of the tools on Solaris that you may want to worry about are PR stat, the process stat. So it's the equivalent of top. What else? Let me see if I can get the window to update correctly here. And it doesn't seem to be cooperating. So if I just stretch it a little bit. Yeah, we'll log out and log back in. So yeah, as I was saying, PR stat is Similar to Top, has some other useful features. Okay, that's better. Let me set my font size here. So what do we want to look at here in Solaris? A few things. Um, let's see what software it comes bundled with. So obviously it looks like you get Apache 2, you get Java, Java 1.4. Oh, no, you get Java 1.6. So you get a semi-modern Java. Um, you get an Apache server, which it uses for its um, for some of its management functions. Get back over to Bash. See what's an open win. This is really just the X Windows stuff. Um, so Xsun is the X server. So this is all the standard stuff you see here. We get there's TWM, Xhost. Um, you don't actually get the XView stuff, so the Open Windows, OLWM, Window Manager, and other things. That was phased out after Solaris 8. So Solaris 8 is the last one you get Open Windows bundled with it, last version. But what's nice is you get some open source software thrown in here, which I think is fantastic that they included this, and it's separated, right? So it's off to the side, which is nice. You get GCC and associated things, so you can do some work there. You get MySQL. Again, these are going to be older versions. ZSH, some useful stuff here. But GCC is going to be older, so 3.4 version, a little bit older. Trying to think what else I have to say about it. There's not a whole lot to say. Solaris 10 is the kind of workmanlike, it just works operating system. There's very little flash. There is the Java desktop if you wanted to do a desktop environment. But again, leave a comment below if you want to see more about Solaris and the desktop environments. So the Java desktop, we looked at the one on Solaris 11. GNOME, they call it the Java desktop. It's really GNOME. Maybe minorly modified. But you do get CDE, which I think is very nice. We're going to be doing a separate video on ZFS, and that'll be the head-to-head FreeBSD versus Solaris. You saw how to add a package. Pretty straightforward. So the other thing here, a couple other things. So their CCS is some, compiler support stuff. So you see you get some tools here. You don't get a full compiler. But these are the real Unix tools here, as opposed to what you get in user SFW bin, which is the open source equivalents. Um, so you see you have GNU make in there, and here that is the Solaris make, real Unix make. I am dithering a little bit because I don't know what else to really say. Uh, let's put it this way: if I did not have to be running Linux specific software for work and other things, right? So um, some hobby type items. This would probably be my primary workstation operating system, this or FreeBSD, right? So they're kind of neck and neck. They share a lot of the same features. It's one of the reasons it makes FreeBSD so powerful, things like ZFS. Same thing that makes Solaris so powerful. And because it's free for non-production use, essentially, can be freely used. I know a lot of people are big open source proponents, and if that's the case, you can use Open Solaris. So we looked at Triblix in the past, which is my favorite of the open source or Open Solaris kind of spins distributions. You can call it a distribution because it is there are a lot of them under the Open Solaris umbrella. But if you want the real deal, real Unix, you got to go with real Solaris. What the interesting things I don't know if it's common knowledge is that there are, I think, at least one flavor of Linux, right? So one distribution has actually been certified as Unix. So they're not quite as strict with the standard as they once were. I'm just trying to check off mentally here. We looked at the installation, installing a package. We can do a separate video about CDE. Looked at some of the software that's installed. You get a bunch of the GNU tools, and you get some Sun tools. Things like dtrace and ZFS kind of deserve their own video. A little bit about the file. Let's add a user. So by default, it puts users in export home. I was trying to demo that by adding the user. So can add a user. So there's SMF. Do the SVCS. You can see what's on there. Let's enable telnet. That's probably not going to let me log in as root. Yeah. So SMF, pretty powerful. Let me pull that command back up there. So you want to turn on telnet? That's all you got to do. Well, let's turn it back off again. Simple as it is. So yeah, SMF, really powerful. Like I said, probably overblown for most uses. So again, leave a comment below. Sorry, this is a bit of a ramble, a little bit unfocused. Probably need a snack. Blood sugar may be dropping. A little bit unfocused, but do leave a comment if you want to see more about CDE. Probably the grand dam of desktop environments, or if you want to see some about ZFS. And if you're interested in seeing some of the head-to-head stuff, FreeBSD versus Solaris 10. Well, thanks for watching. Sorry it was a little bit of a ramble today, and hopefully have more content up soon. So, work gets in the way sometimes. So again, leave a comment if you want to see more.